Oh, crap. Oh, okay, there we go. Sorry, I was like, okay. Let me get this out the way right quick because I uploaded that American Boomerism a snapshot, a short little clip of Joe Dresnok. You can see what an arrogant jackass this dude is. And the fact is that he doesn't give a fuck about the Korean people at all. He simply uses them because he wanted to escape his own shitty life. And that's the truth. He wanted to escape his shitty life and all the stuff that he did. And now this fool wants to act like, and obviously he's dead now, but it's like this fool wants to act like, they're going to take care of me until my dying breath. And that's the sort of, attitude that you'll see in America, which is kind of the other side of the coin for Medicare for all or something like that. It's kind of the welfare sort of folks and whatnot. They're going to take care of me. This sort of, it's expected sort of thing that they, that they just expect this to act. I cannot think of the word offhand, but it's like basically they just expect these things to be given to them. And he was just the ultimate spoiled brat, the one that just, expected things to be there. He's like, how are they going to feed an American, even if their own people are starving? And you'll see this sort of, just what an arrogant asshole he was, It's like, oh my gosh, his wife left him, and because of that, you should feel sorry for me. And you can see with this boomerism as well that, the doctors are telling him, hey, lay off on the drinking and smoking. And he's just like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do what you tell me to. And that's the typical American individualism that you get, that rugged individual, this is the legacy of rugged individualism, where he's just like, I'm not going to do what you tell me to. I'm not going to do that. And he was just a disgusting person. And believe me, the other guys who did flee to North Korea, to the DPRK, most of those guys, they were scumbags too. It's like that. I think it was Abshur. I think Abshur passed away. But there's another guy who's like a sergeant who ended up coming there, and he had a Japanese wife, and he left the DPRK so he could find his wife and all this other stuff. He wrote a bullshit book and all this. Just these are just pitiful, pitiful people, And it goes to show that, a lot of folks just don't grow up. They just fucking children, And I do want to point this out where it's like, maybe this is kind of like a bit of the other side of the coin. Other side of the coin is a term of this video, but but seriously though, is you'll get these folks who just think that they're entitled. That's the word. Yeah, they feel that they're entitled to get this shit. And you'll see these attitudes between with him. Particularly, Joe Dresnok was the last surviving one. He had a Romanian wife that apparently got sick and she disappeared, but he had 2 kids with her. And now he, in his last years, he was married to like some other woman, and he had a mixed baby with her. I mean, talk about grandparent cry. But it's like, it's just some crazy shit, right? Seeing this shit. But it's like, they're all just so entitled and all this. It's the essence of boomerism, though. It doesn't matter where the fuck in the world they are. They've been infected with this American entitlement, like, I'm going to get this regardless. You can see all those years in Korea, in the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, meant nothing to him. He gave the lip service that they wanted to hear. This motherfucker could barely speak English and could barely teach English. He was worthless in many ways. He was he did bullshit movies for them and all that shit. This nigga was worthless. And yet, and he's just an example of the excesses and the entitlement that still exists in the United States. You can say it with people too, but him being an American, I have to speak towards it. And I hope I don't represent that. I hope I never represent that sort of thing where it's like, I feel entitled to everything. Well, I deserve this job. I deserve this sort of thing. You know, I hope I never do that. Not completely. There are aspects that that I have unfortunately taken in, but that sort of entitlement is disgusting, and that's something that I find to be so prevalent in the United States. And like I say, this is kind of the whole thing with M4A that while I say, yeah, I still do support M4A because it's a step in the right direction. At least for the United States. People can say, well, it's still going to hurt, third worlders, this and that. Fine, you can go ahead and do that. But the thing is, though, is that they're grown enough and they can speak for themselves. They don't need some fetishist like you speaking about it. But, that's my take anyway. I just find it disgusting to see people like him and the legacy of people like Joe Dresnok. Now his two kids, of course, or at least his two quote-unquote white children, are now in the Korean People's Army. And, of course, they had an interview with them a few years ago. But, yeah, he's dead. I would have to say, I try not to say this too often, but I would honestly say let him rot in hell. He is a horrible example of the United States. He is a horrible example of opportunism, basically. And he was one of the ultimate opportunists. And you can talk about opportunists throughout history, whether, you want to talk about the various folks during the Nazi regime, whether Vidkun Quisling or Pierre Laval or Marshal Pétain or all these other, people who have sold secrets to the Soviet Union, this and that. It's like, yeah, they're pretty bad. But people like the entitlement that you'll see with people like Joe Dresnok is disgusting. And it's something that I hope, that we can all, no matter if we're left wing or right wing, will say, no, he is a scumbag. He is a complete scumbag. He was a self-serving, entitled prick. And you can see that on his face where he's just like, And they're trying to tell him, hey, man, maybe you need to stop smoking and drinking. But he's like, he loves smoking. And it's, he's just like, well, these people are starving, trying to, have some fake emotion and shit. And then this nigga comes around and he's like, they're going to feed me until the day I die. They're going to take care of me the day I die. Disgusting. But I'm repeating myself at this point. I just, I wanted to point that out because I find him to be atrocious and disgusting. But yeah, I think I've pretty much repeated myself at this point. But yeah, I hope y'all enjoy that. See you later. Goodbye.